What it is, what is up, welcome back to my channel. It's a wrap, aka Yudi here, and today I'm talking about Housewoman. So if you read it, if you're interested, stick around. Okay, y'all, I'm still processing my thoughts about what exactly I just read. I literally just finished this book 5 seconds ago, and I'm not sure if I hate it or I love it. And today we are talking about Housewoman by Adorah, I think it's Nworah. And just a little bit about her. I believe she is actually a lawyer by trade, but she is an Igbo writer from Nigeria, but she currently lives in the States. And she's written a lot of short stories, and I believe this is her first novel. Housewoman is about a woman named Ikemefuna, and she has come from Lagos to Houston to be married to a man named Nna and be his wife and have his child. But so much ensues in that she's pretty much trapped in this house in Houston, and she leaves Lagos thinking that she's going to live like this American suburban white picket fence dream in Houston, Texas. And that's not really how things go down. This is my first time actually, I think this is the first thriller I've read, which is funny because this year's almost over. But I think this is the first thriller I've read on this channel. But this is definitely, I guess, not what I think of when I think of a traditional thriller, but it did leave me in suspense, and it left me, what's the best word I can think of? Like a visceral kind of reaction. Like the way that the characters are described and the way that the scenes kind of go down in the book. The setting of the story is pretty much based in this house in Houston with this family, and she really only leaves this house twice in the whole book. So the whole book is really set in this house and her kind of losing her mind in this house, where she's being like forced to marry this man that she doesn't like, and she only thinks she's going to be in Houston for 2 weeks, and baby, it's not 2 weeks. Oh, it's a lot. It's a lot to process. It was a lot to process. And in processing that, I asked myself, did I actually like this story? Was I invested in it from beginning to end? Yes. When I got to the end, was I a little bit confused about what exactly I was supposed to take away? Yes, that as well. So I'm going to try to process my thoughts by going through each character. So first, let's go over the main character, Ikemefuna. In the beginning of the book, I would say she's like bright-eyed. She pretty much just cooks for the family, and the first scene in the book, like she's in the kitchen, she's cooking, he approaches her, she thinks that she's really pretty. It seems like just like an innocent, like meet cute kind of scene, which is kind of crazy knowing how the book ends and all the craziness that ensues. But Ikemefuna is like tasked to like get and not to like fall in love with her or be attracted to her so they can have this child. She is kind of mysterious. We don't really know a lot about her. Where did this woman come from? Like, what is her story? We know that she likes to dance. And by the end, like the mysterious kind of put togetherness that she seems to have in the beginning is like completely unraveled. But I don't know if we really like fully process like who Ikemefuna really is, if that makes sense. But let me go to Nna, which was a character that I did not like him at all. You know, and I don't think Adorah really set this man up to win, because in the very beginning, in multiple times, we learned that this man has like a smelly, cheesy dang-lang, and I didn't know how to process that information. And then him not being he's also not likable because of the way he also treats women, and he acts like oh, I'm this great guy, like I have this great job, I took this women's studies class when I was in college, and I own this place in Philly, and like I just have this little temper. But it's like Adorah writes his point of view and how like I passively get angry at these women, and they made me act out in be unable to control my emotions, and I might have pushed her. The way that these abusive moments are kind of like minimized through his point of view is wild. Is wild. I think he was the most scary for me. I think some people would argue that Agbala is like more scarier, but for me, and that was scary because it was like people were acting like Ikemefuna's character was just unhinged, but for me, Anna was unhinged. Like, like he was really scary. Like the way that Ikemefuna had to walk on eggshells throughout the book, not knowing what would set this man off. Like, I felt like Ikemefuna was doing what she had to do. Okay. And who came out on top of the end? She was doing what she had to do to survive. That's all I'm saying. But also, I watched the author Adorah talk about the book in a chat. And she was talking about like Anan, how he's not only is he an only child, but he's like the only son. And she talked about the dynamics of like the only son in like the family dynamic. She specifically points out like in the Nigerian family household, how the way that boys are coddled, especially if you're like the only boy. Anand's behavior is kind of excused and coddled because he is like that prized son. He treats these women in such, for me, it's like horrible ways. And the way that his mother kind of like excuses it or assuages it, and especially when she tells Ikemefuna to, be more pleasant and pleasing and be more aware of his emotions, and she's all like, okay, but I could who why aren't you telling him to be more mindful of my emotions? I can also be unhinged, but I'm not out here like just going off the hinges and smacking people. I mean, she kind of is, but I think hers makes more sense than his does. Okay, let's get to Agbala. Okay, Agbala is Anna's mother, and she's one of the characters that I'm like, she's so unempathetic, and she's so on like, oh, because Allah told me, and following the whole like, I'm following this religious lead or whatever, this God or whatever, that she's unable to see like, I guess, like the human in Ikemefuna, and that like she's not just this like vessel to a means to a goal. Like she's an actual whole ass human being, and she's been stuck in this house for months on end, so of course she's losing her mind. Like she's not just a means to an end. But woman to woman, I'm just like, girl, you could at least have Ikemefuna's back a little bit. She don't have this girl's back at all. It had me so like, but I don't hate her as much as I hate Anna. But Agbala was diabolical. She was a diabolical character. Let's talk about Ike, her husband. I have no feelings about Ike. It's Ike. I have no feelings about this man. As irrelevant as they described his character and how passive they described his character, is how passive I felt about him when I was reading this book. Like he was a non-factor. Why was he even in the story? Adina is Ikemefuna's mother, and I feel actually she was really like the woman down and out. But Adina don't really like, she can't really fight for nobody because she can't even fight for herself. Which sucks because Ikemefuna is really fighting. Like she really fighting, and she don't really got nobody in her, like she don't got nobody in her corner until the very end. Like she don't got nobody in her corner, and it makes me so upset because I'm just all like, man, y'all just gonna let this woman suffer. I almost give up on this book because of that, because I was just like, why do I have to read about this woman suffering in so many ways? She has no freedom, and she fighting for it. Like she really fighting. Like she fighting, she yelling every day, and I just need somebody to be in her corner. And her own mama isn't. But anyway, this book was very, I don't want to use the word strange, but there was just a lot of strange dynamics going on. Ikemefuna and Anna's relationship had me very disturbed. And I don't know if I got any resolution about how disturbed I was about their relationship until the end. Like we were disturbed. First of all, I was disturbed because I literally, when they first sleep together, I literally like gagged because she literally just was describing Anna and his smelly ish. Like, I was just like, no, girl, smell and taste. Like, don't do it. Don't do it. And the fact that, like, his mama was all like, girl, you have to please this man. And I was just all like, well, you couldn't tell your son to, like, properly wash his thing? But supposedly, even if he watched it, it wasn't going to do nothing because he needs a doctor. Like, if that is that type of smell and taste, it didn't make any sense. So that for like from the beginning, like them being together and them being intimate was already like gag as a reader. And then once we learn what we learned and then we get to the end, it was still gag. It was just like, girl, why did you put us through this? What was I supposed to take away from the end of this? I mean, there are some things I guess I could take away. She does, thinking about the idea of the American dream and how US is supposed to be like this free and liberating place, and how Ikemefuna leaves Lagos and comes to Houston and she's literally trapped in this house and nothing about her experience is free or liberating. And the people that she encounters don't assist in freeing or liberating her. She's literally trapped in this country. Like, I mean, there's some things to be taken away from that if we think about it that way. Not only is like Ikemefuna and the family trapped in this house, but also how isolating it is. Like, like they don't really interact with their neighbors. And Agbala's character constantly goes into how she's been here for so long, but she still kind of gets this anxiety when she goes out and buys things. And she still feels like, even though she's been here for like, you know, for been in the US for like decades, she still doesn't feel like American. Like she still doesn't feel like she's within the fold of this country. She feels like she's on the outskirts and she's isolated. That's also something to explore within this book. But outside of that, I'm sure there's some other things. So Ikemefuna, like she doesn't really, everybody has like this, which this reminds me of House of Eve just a little bit. Everybody has this say on like what she should do in her body, and she doesn't seem to like own her body and own her decisions. Like it's not like she decides she wants to marry Anam. Like her family decides that for her. Anam's family decides that she's gonna have this baby. Like she really has no say, baby. And I guess we can say something about that in terms of like, I guess, womanhood, or the way society kind of like structures it, that people feel like they have power over you or like dominate over you. And Anna kind of touches on that, how like he talks about Ikemefuna's character very like diminutively, like small, like he's this big guy and she's this small woman, and like her having to have a certain place in his life when she's outside of like how he sees her, how he feels like he has to like rein in control. We can say something about that. But yeah, it was a book I guess I'm still processing. I don't know if I hated it, if I hated the book or I loved it. And I wasn't very sure what I was supposed to take away from it. I'm not gonna lie. There's some, like, thinking of other books, especially the books that like I did on my wrap up in my last video. Even if I didn't love it, it definitely left me with like some issues, some topics, some themes to think through. This one I'm just confused. So yeah, y'all, tell me if you guys have read Housewomen. Tell me what you all took away from it. Let me know if you enjoyed it or you didn't enjoy it. And we can continue our conversations down in the comments. So until next time, deuces.